Hello everyone and welcome back to the Belgian Beer Brothers channel. Cedric here in Antwerp, and after a short break I'm back with a brand new brew review, and maybe we can call this an in-between brand breakdown too, because we'll be covering a bit of a history as well. I have been looking forward to this one for a while now, since I love quadruples, and I'm not the only one. I'm thinking about you, yo. But this is in fact the very first quadruple to ever be produced in Belgium. And I am of course talking about Straffe Hendrik, the quadruple by brewery the Halve Maan in Bruges. I'm not going into too much depth about what a quadruple is exactly, for two reasons. First of all, I'll be making a series on beer styles in the near future. And second, just like with many concepts in the beer world, not everyone agrees as to what a quadruple actually is or should be. Now, following the double and triple, quadruple was the logical next step. And following that logic, this would be another step higher on the ABV ladder, right? So, mostly we use this name for a rather strong, let's say around 10% ABV, 9 to 12, a dark ale, and often a bit spiced or fruity. And the term is slightly interchangeable with barley wine, for example. I've even heard someone go as far as jokingly calling this quadruple the name for Christmas ales for the other 11 months of the year. So let's not get into too much depth about that, and I'll dedicate an entire video to this subject later on. Now, I said this was the first Belgian quadruple, and that emphasis is quite important because we weren't the first to brew quadruples. And as much as we hate to admit it, the Dutch actually beat us to it. The first beer carrying the quadruple name was introduced by La Trappe in 1991, which makes it one of the youngest beer styles as well. If, of course, I'm not counting the honey, cracker, maple nut, crunch, milky, Oreo, Flubbity Whoop stouts and such. As with many things that are successful, several other quadruple beers followed, not necessarily copies, but inspired by, be it often quite different. And that brings us to Straffe Hendrik quadruple. Straffe Hendrik is a brand name, originally launched by the Halve Maan in Bruges, but the beer and brand name came quite the way over the years. For starters, in 1981 the Halve Maan was asked to brew a beer to celebrate the inauguration of the Saint Arnold statue in Bruges. And Saint Arnold is the patron saint of brewers and innkeepers for promoting the drinking of beer which was sterilized during production, or at least cooked, instead of infected water during epidemics in his lifetime in the 11th century. Now, they brewed a rather strong, well-hopped triple, let's call it around 9%, and they called it Straffe Hendrik. Straffe being Flemish for strong ale, so it was actually called Strong Henry. But then why would they call it Hendrik if it was meant to honor Saint Arnold? Well, the namesake is actually quite similar to that of Omer. From the start of the Halve Maan in 1856 until the first Straffe Hendrik in 1981, all generations of brewers, the firstborn sons, were called Hendrik, and ironically the Straffe Hendrik was produced by the next generation, Veronique Maas. Not only the first not Hendrik, but also the first woman to lead the brewery, with her father, Hendrik. So she brewed this beer not only to honor Saint Arnold, but to tribute her predecessors as well. In 1988, after a collaboration, the brand got taken over, or actually the brewery got taken over by brewery Riva in Dentergem. And if that rings a bell, you must have seen the Lucifer story. In the following years, less and less Straffe Hendrik got produced in Bruges, and a 6% blonde and an 8.5% brown ale saw the light of day, practically rendering the triple obsolete. Now, unfortunately, when the Halve Maan turned independent again, Riva, or Liefmans at the time, kept the Straffe Hendrik brand, and the Halve Maan, however, recovered their, at the time, top-selling wheat beer, the Brugsterbebier, or Brugse Witte. In 2002, the entire production of Straffe Hendrik was moved to Dentergem until Liefmans filed for bankruptcy in 2007. Now, when Duvel Moortgat bought the Liefmans breweries and portfolio, they reached several agreements with colleagues, amongst which one with het Anker in Mechelen to brew Lucifer, and one with the Halve Maan to get their beloved Straffe Hendrik back, because of course there was a lot of sentiment involved. Over the years, the blonde and brown were discontinued, and after acquiring the brand back, they refined the recipe for the triple, and in 2010 introduced a new beer in the Straffe Hendrik line, the Quadrupel, an 11% ABV dark ale and the first quadruple to be brewed in Belgium, as said. Now, in the following years, they won many awards, and the Straffe Hendrik range grew with an annual heritage beer. These are barrel-aged versions of the quadruple. These were introduced in 2012. In 2015, a wild version of the triple was introduced, which was re-fermented with the Brettanomyces range, and eventually the Straffe Hendrik line was topped off with an occasional Xmas blend, which is also a quadruple blend. By the way, the Halve Maan often collaborates for creative projects, and currently they have a collaboration with a culinary photographer that I admire, Peter Doop. Not Dope, but The Hope. And they run a contest to win a canvas of one of his photos on their website, so go check that out. I'll post a link below here as well. So now you know the history and the travels of the Straffe Hendrik brand, so let's get to tasting. And you guys know that I'm an old soul, and much to my own surprise and my disgrace, I don't even own a modern day Straffe Hendrik glass. I didn't know that. But what I do have is these two old original chalices, which are probably around my age, since I was born in 1987. And this one here is a Riva era glass from between 1988 and the mid-90s. So these days the Straffe Hendrik glass is more of a flat chalice, or a rounded flat top chalice, like the Van Onzenbroek, the Kasteelbier glass. But yeah, originally they went with the old Abbey beer chalice look, probably to play into the feeling, this Abbey beer feeling that people know and love. And this one here is, well, a classic with the white and green scripture saying the blonde 6% and the brown 8.5%. And this one is a luxury version with the gold rim and with no mention, so this was probably meant for the triple. Now, that being said, let's have a taste. And this quadruple here is basically an 11% dark ale, strong dark ale, brewed with a bunch of specialty malts. I do believe that they have like 6 different malts on the malt bill, amongst which well, a bunch of colored malts and even roasted malts. It is brewed with 2 kinds of hops, 2 kinds of European hops from the east of Germany, Slovenia, Czech Republic, mainly Saaz and Styrian Golding. I do believe that they don't add the caramel for the color, but it's all from the grain bill. And yeah, I do know that these come quite highly carbonated, so let's go about this quite carefully. It is re-fermented in the bottle, so another reason to be careful. I love this very simple label. Got this half moon here because maybe I haven't told you guys yet, but Halve Maan translates to half moon or new moon or well, any of those phases. It says quadruple beer from Bruges, 11%, and that's pretty much it. I'm gonna go for the luxury chalice here, not for the gold rim, but because it's closest to me. Lovely branded bottle cap. Again, forgot to change the glass. Really should be on the lookout for a larger glass. Like I said, highly carbonated. And there's the yeast. Yeah, it probably looks like a stout from where you guys are sitting, but if I hold it up to the light, a lot of light passes through, so it is relatively clear. Of course, I left the yeast in the bottle, but this has a very deep brown, reddish brown color. Lovely, dense beige head of foam. Oh, and I love that scent. It is very spiced, very spicy, very, yeah, slightly herbal. I get some nuts in there, some chestnuts actually, roasted nuts. Of course, that's because of the roasted malts. And I do get a bunch of dried fruits in there, like dates and prunes. Yeah, absolutely lovely. Some roasty scents as well. Yeah, let's dive right in. Cheers, you guys. Yeah, actually, because of the scent, the dried fruits, you would expect a rather sweet beer. Also, it's an 11%er, so probably brewed quite high in gravity, quite high in Plato's, and you would expect a bit of leftover sugars, maybe a bit of added caramel. Now, I can tell you that this is not the case. It is not sweet at all. Well, it is slightly sweet, of course, but it is mainly rather dry and herbal, spicy. Now, I don't know if this is actually added to the beer, but I do get some hints of coriander and, yeah, a lot of chestnut, roasted chestnut mainly. Yeah, absolutely lovely. I actually find this a very complex beer, a very odd beer as well, because even though it is a quadruple, it is a rather high alcohol beer, it does have a very thin mouthfeel, and you mainly get a bunch of alcohol and carbon dioxide in the mouth, which also tickles the roof of the mouth, also tickles the throat. Now, you may hear that I have a bit of a cold, so the carbon dioxide is extra strong for me, because it really takes to my air passages. But yeah, absolutely lovely. I get a lot of roasty flavors. So actually, this is, and that's the lovely thing about quadruples. There are no two alike. Of course, there aren't that many anyway. But this tastes like a very strong, spiced, yeah, light stout maybe. Yeah, I do get some hints of chocolatey flavors, not the coffee that you get with stouts. And I do believe that they use some caramel malts. But like I said, they use, I believe, 6 different types of malts. I don't know exactly which ones, but absolutely lovely beer. Again, not necessarily my cup of tea. I do love the La Trappe Quadruple, but it is absolutely well brewed, and I do think that at the Halve Maan, they really know what they do. Coincidentally, by the way, that is the very first brewery I think that I visited. I may have visited Stella Artois before, but at least this is the first family brewery or traditional brewery that I visited back when I was 15, I believe. Absolutely lovely. Now, how would I score this beer? Honestly, when in a pub, this wouldn't be my go-to beer, but it is absolutely well brewed. It is a fantastic quality product, and I think everyone should have tried this at least once if you can get your hands on. I saw that we have a new subscriber in Mexico. Yeah, sorry man, I think you're not gonna be able to get this, but if you can, yeah, try it, and be careful, it is still 11%. But yeah, scoring. Smell, fantastic. Mouthfeel, quite average. But that is a good sign, because that means that there's not a lot of added caramel in this beer and stuff. Taste, lovely. So I would call this a 375. Would have been a 4 if it was more, yeah, more my kind of beer. But yeah, let's call it a 375. Absolutely great beer. And that being said, yeah, I'm gonna leave it at that. As usual, if you guys like this video, hit that thumbs up, show me if you have any questions, remarks, leave them down in the comments. I'll get back to you as soon as possible, and if you want to see more, subscribe and hit the bell icon so you'll be the first to know whenever I upload something. Normally that should be every Monday, Wednesday and Friday, but right now during the holiday season I'm very, very busy at work, so I might screw it back to twice a week. And about work, I still have a small announcement, but that's for later. Cheers you guys, see you in the next video, which will probably be tomorrow with another brewery breakdown. Cheers!